Received word yesterday through YouTube that there's a well, oh look, you can see other parts of the room. It's not exciting, is it? There's a door. There's a fridge. There's a window. Oh look your spine. Oh look your spine. Like literally, that's the size of the room. It's massive. Look how massive the room is. Okay, so from this incredibly wealthy vantage point, it behooves us to point out, using someone else's face, that matters that do not pertain to Australia can be commented on by Australians because, the Yanks think that they know all about Australia, and the Poms think they know all about Australia, and the Chinese and the Russians think they know all about Australia too, apparently, but none of them actually do. I mean, unless you're actually a civilian who lives in Australia and has done so, permanently or semi-permanently for a number of years, if not your whole life, you really haven't got a clue. And to be honest, a lot of people in Australia don't actually know what Australia is about either. So there's that. So here's one of the reasons why. Receiving word and notification. There was a Supreme Court ruling. The USA, yay, has no jurisdictional relevance to Australia as far as we know. However, it does have a slight appeal in some circumstances. Here's how it went down. Apparently, President Oompa Loompa signed an executive order, presumably one of the laundry list that was chucked in front of him that he just whiteboard marked his way through and didn't even pen in the first place, that referred to some list of legal firms in the USA, like with lawyers and crap, that he was determined to get, or that whoever penned the executive order was determined to get all government agencies in the United States, all these acronym people, CIA, NSA, FBI, blah, 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 to use the full force of them on those targeted law firms. And there's two sides to the argument, because why not? It is a court case, so there is two sides to the argument. The first side is where the judge actually ruled, which is, given the greater context of what Trump administration has been doing, that sounds like a standard playbook for a coup. To get the lawyers out of the way so that they cannot challenge the coup that's in progress using the court system. And to abrogate the rule of law in such circumstances would qualify as supporting a threat in their own country. Wasn't their exact words, but that was their meaning. Permanent injunction, which means he's never allowed to do it. So there's a permanent injunction on that executive order, which means the president can't use all those acronym agencies to go after the lawyers, or at least those lawyers, depending on how it was worded. And so they've all screamed yay, and a few choice anti-Trump camp people have gone yay as well, and given the context of how the American system works, keeping their courts open is probably a good idea. It may be one of the few things they've got to prevent a civil war, actually. So fair enough. On the other hand, and to be fair, in the actual context of what's going on over there, can see why they thought that too. Not disputing it. The thing is, though, there's another side to the argument. It wasn't articulated if it was all legal firms or just those ones. And moreover, the purpose of the executive order was not specified. It was assumed to be, or by ruling of the judge in that case, to be seen as coup behaviour, rather than say something else. So let's consider the off chance that Trump has some people in his midst, in his cabinet or his administration, who are double agents, if you will. People who are overtly supporting Trump and kissing his ass, but might sneak in something here or there to get something done that Trump wasn't doing properly. Here's an example of where that might apply, and might is the correct term. None other than the Jeffrey Epstein files. As you'd probably know, allegedly, Trump issued an order for those files to be released. What the community actually received was files that they'd already seen 10 years ago or something like that, with a couple of redacted names in a phone book. Or, shall we say, redacted phone numbers and addresses. The names were kept there. One of those was Donald Trump, incidentally. Anyway, so Donald Trump was there, okay. So Donald Trump, if he was, we're not saying he personally did any of that stuff. He might not have. It is possible to know someone who's less than holy, for lack of a better word, without actually partaking in any of their evils. That is in fact possible to do. People have been disappointed before. They really have. How did you not know? Well, how did the entire world not know before the fucking arsehole got arrested? True fucking story. How did they not know? Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's like that before they got arrested. Okay? That they were having some kind of human trafficking party or whatever sick shit they were fucking into. And by the way, R.I.P. to that lady that died recently in WA. Okay? So that lady that died recently in WA, we're sorry to your family, okay? We're sorry for your family. That's not nice, okay? What you've been through, that's not good, okay? So sorry you went through that, okay? We want to ask a question, okay? Is there any chance that any of those law firms were representing Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Because for some reason, the ringleaders, them two, got arrested. But the people doing the rapes at the parties haven't been, as far as we know. And that's raising eyebrows for concern. Okay, it shouldn't be the case that anyone does an out-of-court settlement using their financial means to shut someone up in the first place. And even if they were paid that, it shouldn't be classified as hush money. It should be classified as compensation. Okay? And if they turned around and said, well, that's what it really fucking was, screw you, and pursued with the legal manner of getting those pricks in fucking prison, say like Prince Andrew, for example, then that might qualify as, reasonable conduct, actually, if you're being sane about it. I mean, after all, have you been human trafficked on Rape fucking Island by those guys? $14 million is fucking nothing. I mean, that's barely paying the cost of fucking surgery and, to repair any damage, or psychologists to deal with PTSD. Okay? But they did the damages that come from changes in career directories or disruptions to the family or anything else. $14 million isn't even compensation at all. You wouldn't even say that $14 million is enough to describe the pain, hurt and suffering that a poor little girl or boy would have gone through as a consequence of anything to do with the likes of them. So we'll call it for what it was. Part payment, goodwill, bond money for the later compensation money that family's going to receive. And so while we're sidetracking, what's this got to do with that injunction with the lawyers? Because they haven't properly released the names of the offenders, which is, by the way, what they were supposed to do when he did that executive order, we don't actually know who the offenders were. And they would have, in fact, been information available in all the court cases pertaining to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. After all, human trafficking is an operation that involves more than just the ringleaders, and the others that participate in it ought to be arrested. So, in classic Trump style, he's been turned around. This is what the Democrats are saying in the USA. They're saying that there's people in El Salvador prison called CCOT or whatever it is, with people with autism awareness tattoos, and people with breast cancer awareness tattoos, and people with domestic violence awareness tattoos. Again, people just with random fucking pictures scrawled on their fucking bodies that they regretted because they were drunk when they were 20 tattoos. who are being treated as though that they are gang tatters for a human trafficking operation. And it's really quite interesting that that's the case, considering that Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein were doing human trafficking. Okay, so, not saying that Trump personally participated in that. However, he did know the people that did, had his name, address, and phone number in their phone book, and only partially released redacted information on the subject, not confirming whether or not they were the actual offenders. And it just so happens that as King Charles III is getting treated for colon cancer and the Pope dies, Prince Andrew is in the background laughing his ass off because we don't know how their peerage system works. But anyway, go on. Trump's the president. He knew the fucking prick. Go on. Australia was able to do the maths on Clive Palmer and Gina Reinhart. You know, seeing the photos of Gina Reinhart with Elon Musk and other South African multi-millionaires who founded their businesses using the blood money of apartheid and went, yeah, no, we're not voting for Clive Palmer. He hasn't got a single fucking seat. It is actually the case in Australia that, get this, the Legalised Cannabis Party, which is a single cause party with no other policy other than to legalise cannabis, got way more votes than Clive Palmer's party. Despite having fuck all candidates, no fucking funding, and basically being a butt of jokes. Is that because maybe Clive Palmer represented something they didn't like? Namely Donald Trump. And if Australia can see that, then why can't America see the potentiality that, shutting down law firms through misuse of power with agencies could have either have the consequence of preventing prosecution of law firms that were covering up for offenders in the Maxwell Epstein case, or could potentially shut down law firms that were investigating the Maxwell Epstein case. Either way, just that one example should be enough of fear-based propaganda for you out there to consider the possibility that technically, considering the judge wouldn't have known either, they made the right decision. Fair's fair, right? So, whatever. You know what it's like with men with superiority and inferiority complexes. Oh, there's women with like that too. We're not trying to be sexist on this one, but Donald Trump is pretty clearly like that. Okay? It's never him, it's always Kamala Harris. How could have anyone voted for him when they literally saw the guy get convicted of fraud 34 times, and then the next week he's on the TV saying that fucking Kamala Harris is a liar and a sex worker. Kamala Harris was the vice president at the fucking time. These fraud cases related to covering up hush money or something in relation to a sex worker. Fucking... Okay? So, in a few weeks, the USA is going to have the funeral of Donald John Trump. Okay? It's probably going to work out a bit like this. So I'll try and give him a military parade for his birthday sometime in early June. And so a sub-faction within the military will take that posse comitatus stuff a little bit seriously. And perhaps one of the many gun-toting Second Amendment supporting people, they'd vote for Trump as well. Maybe friends of the guy that tried to blow up Trump Tower in Las Vegas on New Year's using a Cybertruck. And, as a consequence, his birthday will probably be his funeral. Oh dear. So sad. Now USA, get to work on dealing with the other issues. Oh, you're all quiet now about this. Tech bro stuff. Is it because Elon Musk got kicked out of Doji? But you haven't kicked out Doji. But you haven't kicked out OpenAI. But you haven't kicked out Neuralink. But you haven't kicked out the robotics companies that are building the killer bots and Terminators. And that's with other countries in the world, you got to do the same thing. The great thing about Australia is a bunch of backwoods, parochial fucking people who live in the fucking sticks, okay, and haven't invented anything more complicated than the fucking footy. So have a nice day.